So I thought it'd be fun to try a different style video where we talk about movies and TV shows that I've seen in the last month. So this would be for the month of April. And I like watching these style of videos because then I get to find out new shows and new movies that I end up watching. And I just thought, I don't know, like maybe it'd be fun to share what I saw, because honestly my boyfriend and I watch a lot of movies and TV shows every month. And I just thought maybe at the end of every month I can like mention the ones we saw, the good ones, the bad ones. There are 16 different shows and movies that I'm gonna mention, so this isn't going to be like a full analysis of all the shows and movies we saw. Kind of just like a rough review, and maybe you discover a new show or movie thanks to this list, or maybe you've seen some of the things that I'm going to mention. And it would be nice in the comments to have a conversation about which was your favorite, or which one did you not like, or maybe your opinion is different than mine, which I'm sure it will be for some of these. So also let me know if you like this style of video, because I would like to do it every single month if it's something that is well received. And obviously this channel is kind of like all over the place right now. I do fashion and makeup and crafts and snacks, and I don't really have like a niche yet, so I'm just, you know, trying different things and seeing how it goes. But I do love movies and film and TV shows, so, well, film and movies are the same thing, but so I'm gonna start off with the best thing I saw this month and the worst. And the best show I watched this month, which happens to be a show on Netflix, it's called Baker and the Beauty, and it's actually such a fun, lighthearted, romantic comedy drama series that is a very pleasant watch. Honestly, not typically a fan of romantic comedies, and I never really watch shows like this, but this one, I'm a little biased because this one is based in Miami and it has to do with like a Cuban family, and there's a lot of references to Miami and Cuban bakeries, and I just, being someone who is Cuban and lives in Miami, it just felt like it hit home, so it's kind of like, I obviously really enjoyed it. But also the show is fun. It's a little cheesy, but aren't all romantic comedies pretty much cheesy? And my boyfriend liked it too, which is surprising because usually he wouldn't like a romantic comedy, so that's saying something. It's definitely one of those stories with, you know, when a boy meets a girl, but the girl happens to be like a famous model, and it's one of those things, and he's just an average guy. But the family in the show is great. I loved all the characters. I thought that the show does show a lot of like character development, and I hope they really do a season 2 because I really enjoyed it, and I don't know if they're gonna do a season 2 yet. Apparently the show used to be on like ABC or something, and then it got canceled and it went to Netflix, and then now it's actually on the top 10 list of Netflix, so I don't know, there might be hope that it has a season 2. So if you watch it, it'll help hopefully Netflix decide to do a season 2. So let me know if you've seen it and if you like the show, but I think it's a fun, easy watch, something that's just kind of like very easy to binge. I think we saw it like in 3 days. This list is full of all different genres, from comedy to horror to thrillers to some other weird stuff. Now for the worst thing that we saw this month, I would definitely say is Thunder Force, which I know some people love. I mean, if you like Melissa McCarthy, I think you probably like this movie, but the problem for me is that it's not that I don't like Melissa McCarthy. Actually, there's a movie that came out last year. It's called Super Intelligence, and it has Melissa McCarthy in it, and I did like that one. So it's nothing against Melissa McCarthy, but her humor sometimes is just, it just gets annoying. It's a little too much. It's a little too try-hard, and this movie is like the perfect example of her just trying way too hard to be funny. The whole movie was not funny. The plot is weird. It has to do with them, her and Octavia Spencer are gonna become superheroes, and it's just, it's not a good plot. It's not funny. It's not a good movie. I'm just saying. I'm sure someone is gonna comment that they love this movie, and I don't mean to, you know, it's just, oh, my cat. Let me know if you liked Thunder Force. I just thought it was not good. Not at all. I don't even know if I laughed once. Now, I will say what was the funniest movie we saw this month. This actually made us laugh out loud the entire time. And I know it's not for everyone, but it's called Bad Trip. It's on Netflix. It's Eric Andre. And if you know anything about Eric Andre, obviously his humor is not for everyone, and you know, he takes it too far sometimes, but that's kind of the whole point. This is like a prank movie where his comedy goes a little too far sometimes, and it's very much ridiculous. So if you're into that, it's kind of like Impractical Jokers, if Impractical Jokers was like more on the rated R section. So if you like that style, you will definitely laugh at Bad Trip. We laughed so much in this movie. Everything about it was, the whole movie was funny. If you've seen the Impractical Jokers movie, it's basically similar to that, where it's a movie that has a plot, but it's also like being filmed in real time with people who are being pranked, and it's intertwined with the plot of the movie, but they did it in a good way that it actually didn't feel super random or anything. It was, I don't know, it was really enjoyable. So if you want to laugh a lot, Bad Trip. Now, the best movie in the sense of like a film that we thought was actually just well done, well directed or executed and just unique and something worth mentioning is Promising Young Woman. I always say women. It is like a dark comedy thriller. I don't even know. It's a weird genre of a movie. It's not exactly, doesn't really fall into any exact genre. I really enjoyed it though, except I'm still not over the ending, and I don't know if I love the ending. I'm not gonna lie. But it can be sad. I will say it was probably the like saddest movie we've seen from all of these movies. I do think it was really good. It was like one of those Oscar style movies. I don't even know if it was in the Oscars. I didn't watch the Oscars this year. I usually do. And this year we totally missed the Oscars, so I don't even know if it was on there, but it seems like a film that you would see in the Oscars. So it's one of those more like experimental. There should be like a trigger warning for this movie because it does have a little bit of a plot. You have to definitely read what the description is. I don't want to mention it, but I feel like it needs a trigger warning. The next movie I wanted to mention is actually a movie we saw pretty recently, like the other night, and it's not a new movie. It's actually an old movie, and it's kind of random, but it's called Punch Drunk Love, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen it or heard of it. It's an Adam Sandler movie. Well, it's not really an Adam Sandler movie. It's a movie with Adam Sandler in it. The director is Paul Thomas Anderson, and he's a great director. I mean, that movie is nothing like an Adam Sandler film. We had never watched it before, so I was just curious to see what the movie was like. Adam Sandler films are like, they're like a hit and miss for me most of the time. His comedy is kind of, you know, not always my favorite, and he does have some good ones that I love, and like I love Anger Management and I love some of his films, but actually Uncut Gems was surprisingly an amazing film with Adam Sandler in it, and his acting in that was really good. So this kind of gives me that vibe of like, it's not exactly the same style of a film, but definitely really good acting, way more of a serious take of Adam Sandler. Very interesting plot and style of movie. I think this movie is a little bit more on the creative side, a little bit more, I don't even know exactly what category of genre this movie is. I would say drama, I guess. It's just like a really unique, interesting film that I actually really enjoyed, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. And after watching Punch Drunk Love, we ended up being intrigued to watch another film by Paul Thomas Anderson. So we ended up watching a film called Hard 8 right after, and that one was good too. So now we know we like his directing style, I guess, so probably gonna watch more movies by him. Punch Drunk Love is from like the early 2000s, but this one is like the 1990s. So it's like his first ever film, I believe, and it has Samuel Jackson in it and Gwyneth Paltrow, it has John C. Reilly, and it has to do with like casino gambling stuff, but it's way more than just that. It's actually a really good film too, so I highly suggest both of those. They're both really interesting movies, and we definitely plan to watch more films by Paul Thomas Anderson. Another show or series that I wanted to mention that we saw, which is not new, it came out in 2019, I believe, and it is The Twilight Zone, but the new Twilight Zone. Obviously, this is it's not a remake, it's like a homage to the original Twilight Zone. So these episodes and this series is not exactly like Twilight Zone. It does have like an air to it that is supposed to be like the Twilight Zone, and the host is Jordan Peele. And if you know anything about Jordan Peele, like his movies Us and Get Out, there's a little bit of more of that, like it's a twist to it, you know. It's not, doesn't feel like Twilight Zone, I will say that, but at the same time it definitely feels more like Black Mirror. And if you've ever seen Black Mirror on Netflix and you like Black Mirror, then I highly suggest watching the Twilight Zone series, because every episode is a totally different story, every episode feels like a totally different vibe. They're all directed, I believe, by different people. I believe that's how it works. They're all directed by different people, and the style of the way that the show feels in each episode is such a different style, and it's like watching little mini movies basically. It felt like we watched like 20 different short films, and that's kind of how it is, because they're like over an hour long sometimes, so it's like 50 minutes to over an hour. And Kitty, say hi, Kitty. I wanted to mention the top 3 episodes that we like the most, because maybe you just need like, you know, 2 or 3 good episodes to kind of encourage you to watch the rest, because obviously it's a hit and miss. There are some episodes that are not that good or not as interesting, or maybe you just don't like that style. But that's the cool part about it, just like Black Mirror, is that if you don't like one episode, you might like the next one, and they're all going to be totally different from each other. Personally, our favorite episodes was on season 1, because there's 2 seasons. The first season, there's an episode called Nightmare at 30,000 Feet. It's actually like an homage kind of remake to the original Twilight Zone. That one was actually a very interesting episode. And then in season 2, there's 2 episodes that we really enjoyed. One was called Meet in the Middle, and the other one is The Who of You. And especially The Who of You, I would highly suggest if there's any episode to watch. But all 3 are great if you're looking for like a kind of like a reason to try it out. It was a fun experience watching all the Twilight Zone. We have watched some of the original Twilight Zone episodes, but we haven't watched all of them, and I will admit that now it kind of made me want to go back and watch the Twilight Zone, like the original series, and kind of rewatch those episodes. I only watched this because I was watching someone else's what they watched in March video, and then they had mentioned the Twilight Zone, and then I was like, I want to watch the Twilight Zone. So that's why I like this idea of making this video, because maybe there's something that you haven't given a chance, and then you want to give it a shot, and you end up finding something you like. Now, the next movie I'm going to mention is a horror, and we do like watching a lot of horror movies. Actually, we didn't watch that many this month. When it's October, all we watch is horror movies. So when that month comes, I'm going to be mentioning a lot of horror movies, but we watch about like 2 or 3. And one of them was called The Vigil. It's a 2019 horror thriller film that is actually very interesting, because it all takes place in one night, in one setting, like in one house almost. And I don't know, I like stuff like that. I like when films are able to work with such a little budget, I guess you would say, or such a small cast. I mean, it's literally just like 2 or 3 people in the whole film. So I don't know, I appreciate films like that. It was genuinely scary. It was very dark the whole time. One of those like dark films that is, I mean, like not dark in the meaning of, I mean like literally it's dark. Like there's barely any light, and it's very much one of those like, I don't know. If you want to be spooked, it's a good one. It's a good one. Again, I'm not going to go into the plot and all of that. You can just read it up if you're interested, but I just thought it was worth mentioning. Now, going from horror to something happy and a comedy special, Bo Burnham has a comedy special on Netflix called Make Happy. It's not new. I believe it came out in 2016, and we did watch it back then, but for some reason we just decided to rewatch it again. And I just really wanted to, you know, mention it because it is such a great comedy special. I really like Bo Burnham's style of comedy, where he kind of does like singing, and he does this, like his comedy is within his music and songs. So if you appreciate that, you might really, if you haven't checked Bo Burnham out, you might really enjoy his style. It's definitely different. Oh, I just remembered the reason why we watched Bo Burnham is because we were seeing him in Promising Young Woman. He's in that movie. It kind of reminded us about it, and then after watching it again for the second time, it was like, wow, this is like a really good comedy special. It's genuinely funny. It kind of gets serious at the end, but in a really good way. It's like artsy comedy. I don't know. If you like singing and comedy, then you should like this. So definitely check out Get Happy, or Make Happy. It should make you happy. So every month, there's always going to be a few maybe movies that are rewatches, movies that you've seen before and you decided to watch again. So one movie we ended up watching, which is pretty random, but it was on the hotel TV when we put HBO, and it was School of Rock, which is weird because this isn't the first time that we have been in Orlando. In our hotel room, we put in HBO and School of Rock is playing. I don't know why, but School of Rock has been following us for a while. This is like the third time I've seen School of Rock, and I never get tired of it. It's a great movie. It has Jack Black, it has singing, it has kids playing with instruments and making rock music, and I love the fact that there's literally School of Rock now that kids can join, and I have a lot of my students who are part of School of Rock, and I just think it's such a good movie. And I don't know, just a random one to throw in, but it's rare for us to watch a movie more than once, and to see that movie for almost 3 or 4 times by now, it's great. It's still great. Another one that is a rewatch that's an old film is Legally Blonde. This one's from, I think, like early 2000s as well. Legally Blonde is one of those films that I watched way too much when I was younger. It was like one of those films I had in DVD and just kept rewatching it all the time. I was probably like 11 years old or 12 when that movie came out, so I loved it a lot. But I haven't really seen Legally Blonde in, for sure, over 10 years. I mean, possibly longer than that. I don't recall the last time I saw Legally Blonde, but I remember watching it a lot when I was around 12 years old, and now I'm 31, so it's been a while. And I decided to just, for some reason, I felt like watching it. I'm surprised because it's one of those movies that sometimes when you go back and watch a film or a show that you used to love when you were younger, and then you realize how cringy or not good it was, Legally Blonde is still great. When I rewatched it, I still felt like it was just as good as I remembered it. It's just a classic. It's definitely a girly girl film, but I love it. For example, I rewatched Liz McGuire and realized how cringy that show was. And as much as I love Hilary Duff, which is actually perfect segue to the next thing I'm gonna mention, which is the show Younger. I started watching the show, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I started watching it literally in April. I maybe started like late March, but I just finished season 1 so far. And I really like the show, and it has Hilary Duff in it. And it's kind of a unique, I don't know, I guess it's kind of a unique plot. It's about a girl who is in her late 30s or early 40s. I think she's in her early 40s, and she's pretending to be like early 20s or mid 20s. It's kind of an interesting plot. I really like the characters. There's a lot of fashion in it, and I guess I just like it's kind of a romantic comedy, again, style. It's very much the Devil Wears Prada vibes, but then not exactly. Like, I don't know. Apparently there's like 6 seasons or something, or maybe there's 7 seasons, so I have way more to say probably in the following months as I keep watching this show. But so far with season 1, I really like it. So now I'm gonna mention 3 different movies and shows or series that are questionable. They are the 3, like, I don't know how I feel about it kind of show and movies. Meaning I don't know if I would want to recommend these. Tread lightly if you do. It's one of those. The first one is actually, I would recommend it, I guess. It's just not for everyone probably. It's called Shudder. It's a horror film that's from Thailand, and it's in a different language obviously, so it's all subtitles. It was from 2004. It's not a bad film. It's actually very much loved by certain, you know, audiences, but I just felt like it wasn't scary enough. The ending was kind of sad. Like, I don't know, I just, it's not memorable. I almost forgot it even happened until I like saw my list and I was like, oh yeah, I saw Shudder. So I don't know, I was kind of unimpressed because I only watched Shudder from someone else's list, and she's like a horror person on YouTube. Her name is Possessed by Horror. So I always go to her to like look for really good horror suggestions, and Shudder was on her list, and I thought, and she made such a big deal about it, so I decided to watch it. And that just goes to show that we're all different human beings, and we're all, you know, looking for different things. It just wasn't my favorite. Now the second one, she is also from her list, and this one is kind of like I liked it and I didn't like it, and it's called Rent-A-Pal. Very weird film. It's actually from 2020, and it's like a horror thriller, and it's really good at first, and then it takes a turn that I don't know if I enjoyed, and then it got to the point where I was like, what just happened? So it's kind of a very interesting plot point. I'll kind of give like a little synopsis because I did find this movie so interesting. I thought the plot was great. This guy who's like kind of lonely finds like this VHS that if you put it on the TV, there's this guy who like kind of talks to you, and he starts to feel like he could talk to this guy, but he's on the TV, but like the VHS is called Rent-A-Pal, so you're supposed to feel like you have a friend. And it just gets really weird, but then it takes a turn. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't like the ending though, so that's the only part that I'm like, well, that sucks. I don't know, maybe still worth watching if you're into weird style experimental horror thriller films. That's not for everyone. And the last thing I'm gonna mention that is in this category of very questionable, I don't know how I feel about it. In fact, actually I think this one is the one I would say that I feel the worst about, in the sense that it left me feeling like unsettled and just, I don't know, it just didn't feel good to watch. And it's called Them. It's a series and I believe it's on Netflix. Yeah. And I don't want to talk about what it's about and the plot and all that. It started off really good, I will say that. It caught our attention. We were into the idea of the show till it got too far, and then it became uncomfortable and it just wasn't fun. Definitely not fun, but definitely so, like, I don't know, it just makes you feel bad. Like, it just makes you feel unsettled, and there's some really bad stuff that happened in that show that's just like, I never needed to see this stuff. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like, it's rough. And I don't know who it's for. I don't know who enjoys it, but we thought it was gonna be like a horror spooky series, and then it took a turn that I didn't know we were walking ourselves into, and then it became so aggressive with it that we were just like, what is happening with this show? Yeah, just that's one you can definitely skip if you've been considering watching it. I didn't enjoy it at all, and I've been reading reviews on it because I was curious to know that I wasn't alone with this, and a lot of people don't like it either and are uncomfortable with it, so I'm glad I'm not alone. But I don't know, if you're looking for something to disturb you, I guess you could watch that. But the last thing on my list is something happy-go-lucky and silly, and again, kind of a rewatch actually, and it's Mr. Bean's Holiday, which is super random. One day Jeremy and I were talking about Mr. Bean's, and I actually have never watched the movie Mr. Bean's, like the basic movie, and I was like, well, I've seen Mr. Bean's Holiday, and he was like, what is that? And he had never seen that one, so I was like, okay, well, I need to watch Mr. Bean's, the movie, and you need to watch Mr. Bean's Holiday. So actually, literally last night we watched it, and it's a silly film, but it's fun. It's lighthearted comedy. It's like great for kids, great for adults, kind of one of those, like, I mean, if you like Mr. Bean's, of course, it's very much, it's very to the point where it's too silly sometimes, but it makes me laugh. Can never go wrong with anything that makes you laugh. It's a good time. So Mr. Bean's Holiday, in case you're looking for something silly to laugh at with your kids or as adults. But yeah, let me know if any of the movies or series I mentioned you've seen, or you enjoyed, or you did not enjoy, or if you have opposing thoughts to mine, or if you agree with me. I just would love to have a conversation in the comments about these things, and let me know if you like this style of video, because at the end of every month I would love to do like a wrap up of what I watched. Yeah, toodaloo.